Guys, this is Michael here, and this is my VSR-10 Tokyo Marui sniper rifle with all Lalex upgrade parts in it, minus the bucking. It's a 9-ball hop-up bucking, and the stock hop-up unit and stock barrel. If you're watching this video, you're probably wondering the same thing I was wondering. You're probably having the same problem I was having, which is that you're finding metal flakes on the top of your magazines, or the bolt cycle's just not quite the way you want it to cycle. This was the problem I was having. I lubricated the living hell out of this gun. Time and time again, I've taken it apart to see where the metal flake is coming from, and I couldn't find it. And I went on the forums and asked the simple question, you know, does anybody else have this? And of course, nobody's ever heard of that before. They have never noticed that their rifle's doing it. So anyway, this is how you fix it. This is what I determined what it was. The nozzle on the end of the cylinder is slapping, and I don't know if you can see in there well enough, it's slapping the hop-up unit, the metal on the hop-up unit. Basically, you have your hop-up bucking, and you have your nozzle, right? And the nozzle is supposed to feed into the bucking. Now, what's happening is, as the rifle is being cycled forward, the nozzle, for whatever reason, isn't quite perfectly aligned. So it's smacking into the unit. What I found to be able to fix this is, well, the reason it's happening is there's not enough guide rings in this rifle. There's 2 guide rings that they've designed the Marui with, and most of the sniper rifles actually, L96 and all of them. There's a guide ring here and a guide ring here. They're both nylon guide rings. They're supposed to keep the bolt nice and stout as you cycle it, but it's not enough. There's a big open hollow area right here with only metal to metal, you know, just that's it. There's no guide rings, nothing to cushion it, nothing to stop it. The hop-up unit itself has a compensator thing that's supposed to help guide the nozzle. It's a little U-shaped piece of plastic that's supposed to go down with the spring when the nozzle enters, but that's actually after the problem. This is happening before the problem. So anyway, what you need to do is you need to go to Ace Hardware, and you need to get yourself one of these. It's about $2. This was $2.47 plus tax. It's called a wall tube. It's part of your P-trap. I don't know if you can see the picture under your sink. I got the smallest diameter one I could, and I can tell you right now that this diameter is wider than the bore of the rifle here. So you're going to need to do a little bit more than just cut it for length and shove it in. But we will have to cut it for length. The side of this is nice and smooth, just like the nylon rings that guide the bolt. So we want to keep that smoothness. But what you're going to have to do is you cut it to length, and then we're going to have to take a slot out lengthwise here so that this O becomes a C. Basically what you're going to have is a big long C nylon ring running down your bolt there, or running down the empty barrel well, or hop-up well, or whatever you want to call that area of the rifle. The area missing the rings, obviously. Now, this C-shape slot that's going to be missing, this will allow us to flex this into the right shape to fit it in there. It's actually a good thing to have it that way regardless, because there's a little hole here to the left, and not the one to the right. That's the BB. That's the one that takes the BBs. That's your BB channel. But there's a hole to the left here, and I'm not really sure what that hole's there for, but because we cut it in a C, if we aim the missing piece of the pipe downward, basically that hole will not be obstructed. So whatever that hole serves as a purpose, I'm no expert on what that is, at least we won't be obstructing it. You may notice there's a piece of plastic already in my rifle. That's because I already attempted this mod once before, but I had a piece that was only about yay long, and it actually started to work, but it wasn't enough. So this will help get the flex out of your bolts and hopefully stop the metal flake problem from happening if you're having that issue. So let's head out to the shop now, and I'm going to cut this piece. Alright, so here's my Tokyo Marui. It's in pieces. This is as far down as you have to take it. This is the area that's in question that we're talking about. There's no guide rings in there. I don't know if you can see that. And so we're going to make a guide ring. And here's our part. Remember me talking about it? Now you can see that the diameter is slightly bigger on our part. So once we cut it for length to fit in there, we have to also cut out a big section of the pipe like this, so that it will flex this C shape, as you can see. We're basically making this. This is my old part that was in the rifle, and it worked, but it wasn't long enough. It needs to be longer than this. Quite a bit longer. I'd say about that much longer. This worked, but you'll notice that the outside has been ground down. That's because the plastic's actually about a 32nd too thick. So what we need to do is you need to take a grinder wheel and grind off the sides so that the plastic is thinner. And I don't really have a measurement for you to go by that. That's all on your discretion. It's your judgment, basically. It's trial and error. That's how I did it. So, yeah. Basically, we'll cut it for length, like I was saying. We'll take the part over to here, and we'll go on this grinder wheel and grind it down to the right shape. And through lots and lots of fitting and retrying, we will get it right. Obviously, there can be improvements to my methods here, but for the sake of today, we're just going to get it to work. There we go. Okay. So, next thing we're going to do is make sure that that's the right length. We're going to make our slot cut here to make our C, and we want to take out about that much. So, about 1/4 of the pipe, as you can see. And one of the tools I didn't mention, either some heavy-duty scissors to do this. You want to keep it nice and straight. Or some wire cutters. Those work too. Or maybe a combination of the both. You want to try and keep it straight, like I was saying. And if you do wander off in one direction or the other too much, just take a file to it. It's not too crucial how wide this is. Just about that much, you know. Nothing's perfect. It'll work either way. Again, it's at your discretion. So, I'm going to do that now. Got the cut. There it is. Now we're going to take a file to it and make those edges nice and smooth. Alright, so this is what I was talking about. As you can see, it fits in the rifle. But this, no matter how hard you try, is never going to go through there because the plastic's too thick. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the grinder wheel and run it along the entire length of the part we just manufactured until the plastic is thin enough to let the bolt slide through. Here's the fun part. Grinding down the sides. Obviously, it's going to take a little while to do this, so I'm not going to film much of this, just enough to get the idea. But that's what we're doing. We're making the plastic thinner. Another thing, patience. Take your time, because you know, this is this takes a little bit of precision and a lot of trial and error. So you want to just take your time and make sure that it fits perfectly. If it takes a couple hours, that's what it takes. You know, patience is part of being a sniper. So even though we're not sniping right now, just use this as a test in your patience. I set it inside the barrel already. Here, I'll show you real quick. There's our sleeve. It's in there. I accidentally grinded a little too far in the center, but it's not a big deal because, as you can see, the bolt slides right in. See? So that will hold your bolt stout. And the last thing you want to do is you'll probably have a ton of plastic shavings, which are going to need to be sanded down or just somehow removed, because we don't want that getting into our hop-up unit or a barrel. So you're going to have to go through and clean up the part once you're done with it. But yeah, that's it. That's the part. And after you're done cleaning it, reassemble your rifle and it should operate just fine. Little thing. Test fire. Very smooth cycling now. Ready? 3, 2, 1, and... Perfect. A very happy, ecstatic assistant in the background plays music. Also, no metal flake. Thank you.